Okay, I'm gonna tape my notes because I don't want to leave anything out. So, hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. My name is Diana Marie, and if you are new here, I am a debt-free single mom of two living life on a budget. And one thing that I've been picking up on recently, just from DMs and comments that I'm coming across along with my own personal experiences, is that a lot of us are suffering from what I call financial burnout. Like, we feel like we have hit rock bottom. There's nowhere else for us to go. Like, we're struggling. We're literally hanging on by a thread. And I'm using words that I've said to myself and that you all have said to me. And one thing that I will say, after being on a financial journey, I've been on a financial journey for like, man, over 6 years. 4 years on a debt-free journey, and then a savings journey. So yeah, a little over 6 years now, is that I've always been able to bounce back. If you're feeling like, you know, this is it for you, you're feeling frustrated and overwhelmed and like you're behind and nothing is happening, I want to first say that that's completely normal. You're going to go through these regular ebbs and flows, but that there are certain things that I've learned to do that can help speed up what I call the healing process and just get you back into a mental state of clarity and peace. And so in this video, I'm going to be sharing a few of my tips as well as my personal journey from suffering from financial burnout recently. So if this sounds like something that you need, then keep watching. All right, so recently I have been just completely fatigued. The past 2 years have really just, I feel like, two-piece a lot of people, two-piece our budgets. Like, we were just not ready for the severity of the pandemic and then the recent events, you know, with the invasion as well. I feel like we've all just kind of taken this hit mentally, and it's been like gradual. It hasn't been like bam, it's been like a gradual hit to our mental space, and that has made it very hard for us when it comes to finances. Yes, due to economic factors, you know, the lack of efficiency of policy changes, that affects our finances as well. But one thing a lot of people tend to leave out is their mentality, like your mindset. So, you know, when you are sad, you often want to go out and spend, and you self-soothe that way. When you're happy, you go out and spend. When you're bored, you go out and spend. And so your feelings hold a lot of weight when it comes to how you manage your finances. And so recently I've just found myself extremely overwhelmed. If you guys have been watching my vlogs, you know that I have a very toxic work ethic, and that just kind of caught up to me, as well as single mom life and just trying to figure out my finances, my life after debt freedom. And it all just kind of like came crashing down on me all at one time. Like, I could not get out the bed. It pained me to do work for longer than 10 minutes. And it's like I'm leaving my body as a way to self-soothe and just trying to get through the day. It got so bad that at night, it was literally hard for me to wash my face and brush my teeth. Like, that seemed like too big of a task. And so I had to like drag myself out of bed just to do the simplest things. And I realized that it was taking, you know, a huge toll on my finances. When we tend to get into a space of financial burnout, like, we are literally so over busting our ass and feeling like we don't have enough money to do what we need to do, that causes overspending. As a way, you're like rebelling against your reality, trying to gain some type of control. And also, when it comes to overspending, it's also like a way in which we surrender to our circumstances. We just give up, and we're like, if I can't beat these problems, then I should at least be able to feel happiness in the midst of everything going on. And so we buy things we know that we can't necessarily afford in order to change our internal state. So we often don't buy things because of the things, it's what the reward, like what we're anticipating that thing to give us. And a lot of times it's a change of internal state, like we're feeling anxious and overwhelmed and sad, so we go out and we buy a combo meal so that we can feel relieved. Like we want a sense of relief from whatever we are feeling. And also I find that one thing that really I feel like a lot of us suffer from is feelings of inadequacy. We often feel like our problems, we're the only ones going through these problems and everyone else around us is thriving. It's like, well, this person has it all, they're taking vacations and they're doing XYZ. Meanwhile, I'm over here and I'm barely making it. I can barely put $10 in my savings account. The debts are not moving. Woe is me. You know, why is this happening to me? I can barely make ends meet. Like, it feels very isolating. And you may have always had these feelings, but during times of financial burnout, like, it's really amplified. And that's mostly because you're operating in a space of fatigue, lack of confidence and self-esteem. You're frustrated, you're overwhelmed, and nothing good can be birthed out of this place. Nothing good comes out of that place because you're looking around you for ways to reaffirm how you're feeling, whether those are good emotions or bad emotions. So if you're operating in a space of financial burnout, you're going to look for things to reaffirm those feelings that you have with financial burnout. So it's so hard to see the positive in things because you don't want to deal with the positive. You want to reinforce those negative emotions that you are feeling, and therefore it's very hard to birth anything that's going to really move the needle in your life. So some things that have really helped me kind of climb out of that dark hole that financial burnout puts you in is to, number one, lower the expectations. I know that for a lot of us, we feel behind. We feel like due to our age, we should have had XYZ done. We should have this already. We should have this amount in our bank accounts. But in reality, if you are already dealing with financial burnout, overwhelm, and feeling stressed, you're setting yourself up for a disaster if you do not lower your expectations of yourself. And this may include lowering your goal. Yes, it hurts your ego, but in the long run, it's really going to motivate you to continue going on because you're giving yourself more space. You're giving yourself more space to grow, and you're giving yourself grace to come back to your normal self, like operating in these positive emotions. And this may also mean going to your budget and adjusting your amounts based on where you are right now mentally. And I did a video all about how to make your budget behavior based, but when I was in the thick of financial burnout, I knew from experience, from going through this multiple times, that in order to protect what I have accomplished so far, I was going to need to increase my personal funds. So that meant, you know, swallowing my pride for the time being and lowering some contributions and things so that I could beef up my personal funds. But just remember, when you are doing this, it's only temporary. It is only temporary, but you have to adjust your spending plan to match your current mental state and behavior. Otherwise, it's not going to be sustainable and you're not going to stick with it. And when you don't stick with it and you're already feeling like shit about your finances, then it's just not going to be motivating enough for you to stick with it. Tip number 2 is to create a nurturing space. Not a space that's going to sit there and remind you about all the things you didn't do and what you don't have. I mean a space that's going to actually give you space because it's nurturing you. It's nurturing your mindset. And the first thing that I did, girl, I had to clean up Instagram. Instagram is pretty much the only platform that I am on. I'm not on Facebook, but we know it's 2022 and a lot of us are on social media. And we haven't been around people physically much recently, but social media is still a community. It's still an environment, and it still has such a huge impact on our mental state. And I find that a lot of times we're scrolling more than we are interacting with people that are in our physical world. So you have to make sure that your space on social media reflects where you want to be mentally and where you just want to be in life. And although I'm part of the personal finance community, I'm not part of the personal finance community, because on my homepage, you know, when I'm scrolling through my timeline, I realized that me absorbing so much of people's wins and it, girl, just was not going to work. So I had to start muting some accounts so that I could make room and make space for those accounts that really align with where I'm trying to go and where I was mentally. And so now I am seeing a whole bunch of Jay Shetty and his wife Radhi. If you don't know them, I will link like their video on the screen. They're amazing. But basically, like, personal development, that's kind of where I was at that time and where I needed to be so that I could get myself right. So if when you scroll down your timeline and you're full of anxiety and it's showing you like what you haven't accomplished and you're feeling down and you're feeling envious and you're feeling you know, like you're behind, I encourage you to clean up that space. We may not have control over who we have to be around physically sometimes, but you do have control over who's in your personal world online. That's one thing that we do have full control over. Block, delete, mute, do whatever you have to do to give yourself space to grow, to thrive, and to elevate. And now your personal space does still play a role. So I noticed with me, anytime that my home is a mess, it's not organized, my thoughts are not organized. And I once heard that like your physical environment is a direct representation of your internal state, like your home. So if your home is in disarray, you're mentally, you're probably having 10 million thoughts running through your mind, and it can easily fatigue you. So I encourage you to clean up your space after you watch this video. That way your thoughts can be more organized, and when your thoughts are more organized, you're able to create solutions. You're able to see the opportunities and things that you may not have seen the opportunity in before. That can all help you to improve your finances. Next tip that I have is to give loyalty to yourself. I feel like, especially as women, we are always putting other people ahead of us. We are always worried about other people, and we often come last. And so I realized that I was giving loyalty to an employer versus giving it to myself. Like, a lot of my fatigue came from just a lack of challenge that my job was giving me. I forcefully kept myself in a box that I had outgrown because, oh, you know, my coworkers are nice, my manager's nice, I've been here for so long, you know, what are they going to do without me? They're going to be mad if I start applying to other jobs. And like, I really had to break it down what I was saying to myself, and it was that I should be more loyal to them than to myself. So needless to say, I started a LinkedIn journey. I started writing down my skills and my accomplishments. And you guys, I promise you, when you make a list of your skills and your accomplishments, because naturally we're always going to go to what we don't have and what we haven't done, because we operate based off of survival, and that is part of survival, us realizing what we haven't done and going straight to the negative. That helps us because it keeps it in our consciousness so that we can avoid these things. But once you write down everything that you have accomplished so far, you're gonna be like, I was sleeping on myself. Knowing that I have been playing with my potential, that gives me a lot more motivation to continue on the journey and looking for other opportunities that align with where I see my worth right now. And obviously that translates over to your finances, because I always say, once you know your worth, you're going to start managing your money in a way that aligns with that worth. So no one who's drowning in debt and who wants to get out of debt is going to say that, girl, you're not worthy of being out of debt. you're not going to get to debt freedom that way, because you're going to sabotage your ability to pay off debt. But if you know that you're worthy of paying off debt, you know that you're worthy of a life that's outside of the paycheck to paycheck cycle, you're going to start managing your money in a way that's going to get you out of debt and out of that paycheck to paycheck cycle by any means necessary, because you know that you're living outside of your worth. This is your sign to hashtag give yourself loyalty and start applying to other positions, other higher paying positions, because right now income is stagnant. All right, and last tip, one that I feel like does not get the recognition that it deserves, and it is to stop fighting against the current of life. Because when you're fighting against the current, you're going to tire yourself out and you're going to drown every freaking time, sis. You have got to go with the flow of life, as in you've got to work with what you have right now to get to the next stage. Yes, your circumstances may not be a direct result of your actions, and you feel like you don't deserve to be here, you shouldn't be here, you should be somewhere else, you should be doing something else, your finances should be in a different state. But in reality, this is what you have to work with. And when you fight against where you are, it's almost impossible to get to the next stage, because you're not seeking out opportunities. Like, instead, you're just reminding yourself of where you should be, instead of using where you are right now as a stepping stool. And I know what has really helped me get to the point where I am right now is because I started accepting where I was. I started accepting that I was low income, that I was a single parent, having to take care of my kids financially on my own. And instead of me focusing on where I thought I should be, I started focusing on, okay, because I am right here, I'm accepting where I am, what do I have to reach out and grab and use as a tool to help me get to my vision? And that way I'm not so overwhelmed and stressed out and anxious, because I'm not thinking so far ahead. I'm just staying right here where I am, and I'm using what I have to get just one step further. You just go one step in front of the other, and then you look back and you've gone up a whole staircase. I hope that this helped you guys, and I will catch you all in the next one.